We all have our favorite format, but which one is the best? Hello brothers and sisters, my name is Daidarius, and today I'm gonna talk about manga format, and specifically the way you actually read it. Because there's a lot of ways to read it and essentially also collect it. And which one is the best? Well, the boring answer is, it depends. What do you like the most? But you did not click on here on this video just to hear me say that. You want an actual opinion, so I'm gonna bring you my opinion on this matter. And first up is the small one. And the first one is the small physical format. As the name states, they're not that big. They're kind of small. They're kind of limited in space. But the good thing is that you can read them anywhere because they don't take up too much space, so you can have a lot with you on the go if you want to read it on, I don't know, a train, a bus, while waiting for something. You can just have one of these or more with you and just start reading it. Now, one of the more bad things, if you can say that, is the form factor, because since it is smaller, that also means that the art is smaller as well. And as we print things on a smaller space, well, the quality is actually gonna take a hit. It's not gonna be too big when you actually read this, but you will notice it once you compare it to the bigger sizes. But never the fact, this small one will probably be not anyone's, or at least very few's favorites. Because again, it's small. It's probably too small. But yeah, that is one of them. Then there is the more, I guess, standard size, which is this one. This is the standard size for this, at least. Every different publishers have different sizes that they go around with their standard size. But nevertheless, since this has the majority of the market share, I'm gonna go with this. This is the standard size, and I think most people on the planet prefer actually this size, because there is a lot of people out there that just only collects paperback singles. One, because they like how they look on the shelf, and two, they like how it is to read physically, because the size is not too big, the weight is not too heavy, and you can read it anywhere. You can actually bring a lot of these with you without them taking up too much space. So there's a lot going for it. But just with the former one, the printing size is kind of small, at least in my opinion. So again, more often than not, I think the art suffers for it when it's actually detailed. Now, you might not think that, but with me, I actually feel like when the art is extremely detailed, then this form factor actually hurts it. I have one specific volume where I do really feel that the form factor is too small for the art, and that is this one, Gigantomachia. This is Kentaro Miura, better known as the author and artist of Berserk. This is one of the other mangas that he did while making Berserk, and you can see that the form factor is almost identical, a bit smaller, but then again, that's the publisher thing where the standard form factor is different, but it is almost the same size as the normal Viz volume. And the art in here is actually super detailed, but because the printing is so small, a lot of it is actually lost because the printer cannot print, I guess, those small details and make them actually distinguished. So even if a lot of it looks awesome, you just know that if it was just printed on a bigger size paper, then it would actually be at least better to look at. But that doesn't mean it is better to actually physically read. So what else is there? Well, there is these big ones. This is the Kodansha size, but it is also the same size roughly as the Viz signature size. And essentially it's just the bigger print format, but still it is in paperback. It is light, it is easy to read, and my guess is that once you have actually tried reading a manga in this size, at least if you are a paperback enjoyer, then you would prefer this because you have the bigger prints, you have the bigger art, but still, it is in paperback, it is not heavy, it is not awkward to read physically, you can just pick it up and read it wherever. This is my preferred paperback size. I have bigger paperbacks, but that is only because it's the only way I could collect that series. Paperbacks is not the only form factor you can have when you're reading physically. Is this the hardbacks? And this is one of the smaller hardbacks, but again, the print quality is great, the build quality is awesome, and the paper is actually on the, I won't say cheaper side, but it is not premium. Whereas if you have something like the full metal edition, where it is more or less photo paper, then here it is just normal paper, that's same type of paper you will find in a paperback. The only thing is that this has a hard shell, and that is it. This is my preferred reading experience. Unless take a look at the deluxe edition, or in this case the definitive edition. But nevertheless, this behemoth is actually the original print size for the manga. All mangas more or less comes out in a printed magazine in this size, which means it was originally drawn on papers this big. The things you actually read in singles are scaled down. This is the original intended reading size. And these are my preferred reading experiences actually. But there is a major setback with this. One is, of course, it is big. It is stupidly big, which means you can probably only pack one and bring it with you, and that is it. And it is heavy, which means that reading it is difficult. Unless you actually have a table with you, you will probably not be able to read this comfortably. Try lay down in a sofa and put this on your stomach. It's gonna hurt like hell. So you're more or less bounded to a table just trying to read this. But it is still my preferred reading experience because of the upscale art, the better photo paper, not photo paper, but the better paper quality, the contrast it actually brings out. I prefer to read mangas in this format. But it is again not the only way to read manga. Because one aspect that is often overlooked is digital. Yes, a lot of us is actually consuming a lot of manga digitally, either through the Viz or Manga Plus or Shueisha or whatever you're gonna call it. Kodansha also have one. Either through those apps or through, let's call it sailing the seven seas. But nevertheless, a lot of us consume manga through this. But just because we consume it through this, is that our preferred way? Well, actually, there is a lot of people that only collects manga digitally. Why? Well, I mean, to some extent it makes sense. First of all, it means you can read it wherever you go, because we have this one with us. We consume a lot of content in this. We watch YouTube videos. Some of us are insane and watch series like Netflix or whatever on this. And we read manga on it. But it also means that you can switch, read it on a tablet, read it on a desktop if you want to, and even get a bigger print size than the deluxe editions. But that is a different aspect on it, because that is just how you read it. I also talked about earlier collecting it. What is your preferred collecting format? Because those might differ from what you prefer reading it at. And let's be honest, collecting physical manga and volumes just takes up a lot of space. I only have cracked barely 800 volumes, which sounds a lot, but let me tell you, it is much worse when I have to actually put it on shelves. I am taking up roughly 4 of these bookcases just to have my manga displayed. Whereas if you only collect it digitally, you'll take up this. This will be the amount of space you have to dedicate to your manga collection. And does that make your manga collection less worth because you cannot physically show it off? I mean, no, if it works for you, then fine. Personally, I actually prefer the physical feel of a manga volume in my hands when I actually read it. It is part of the reading experience. It's not just to look at a great visualization on a big, awesome HDR screen and then call it a day. I need the physical touch of the volume. I need the smell actually of the volume. I need the fact that I can put it under a specific dimmed light and have a certain nuance on the page to get the most optimal reading experience of it. Even if I have to use a table because I am an idiot and wants to consume manga through a humongous, awkwardly deluxe edition. Because that is just how I prefer it. Also how I prefer to actually collect it is through these big ass volumes. They take up a lot of space. This is the equivalent of 41 volumes. And I know for a fact I could probably take this amount of space if I only collected the singles. And even raise the shelf up a bit and then have room for even more manga on this bookcase. But I don't. I prefer this. But not all manga comes in this format. Some of it comes in oversized paperbacks. Some of it comes in different hardbacks. Kodansha as well. But nevertheless, that is how I prefer to actually read manga, and I also prefer to collect it. But if you have to twist my arm, what is my preferred way to read it? Because yes, I stated, this is how I prefer to actually experience manga, because it is the original size, the photo paper, or not, I keep calling it photo paper. It's not photo paper. It's only in few instances. This is photo paper. But the paper quality is super high and the ink is pure black and the contrast is just epic. I love experiencing big mangas in this format. But if I had to be real, I also dread having to read it at a table. Not that I hate reading mangas at a table, but this confines me to the table. So with that in mind, I guess my preferred way of reading a manga is this. The smaller hardback edition. Again, there's just something with me and hardbacks. One is that it lasts longer, right? The covers of the spines don't crack or fall off, but also the touch, the feel of it, it is very robust. It kind of feels like I have to force open and pry into a different world where I don't get the same feeling with the paperbacks. I mean, we are nitpicking here, but nevertheless, this is my preferred reading experience. If I had to actually pick one and you force my arm, because it is smaller, I can read it wherever I want. But it is not my preferred paper actually. My preferred paper will be the equivalent of the Gundam Origins, because it is actually photo paper in here. You cannot see shit. This photo paper in here is the same with the Full Metal editions. If you have experience reading those, that paper in this size, they are heavier. That's the trade-off. This is light. This is like a paperback just with a hardcover, whereas this is actually heavier because of the paper. But it is not as heavy as it is, so it makes it awkward to read. So I would probably say this is my favorite one. But if I had to experience an epic story for the first time, the deluxe editions would be the way. But I also wanted to shine some light on the digital, because I know there is some, I guess, bad rep in this community. There's, if you only collect digitally, then you're not seen as high in regards as people who actually collect it physically, because unless you dedicate a room just for your manga collection, then you're not a true collector, I guess. I don't feel like that. Whatever works for you works for you. I personally just want to actually touch the manga. Even if 95% or let's say 90% of manga I consume, I read on a yearly basis is digitally, my preferred way is physically, both reading and collecting. But that begs the question, what about you? What do you prefer? Both reading and collecting, because those can be different. You might prefer reading in, let's say, a higher quality manga, but you want to collect it in the single paperbacks because of how it looks on the shelf. It might be a different way around. You want to collect the high edition ones, but you prefer reading the paperback ones. Maybe you're one of those that actually double dips. One is for the collection. You want to show off the deluxe editions, but you prefer reading the singles, so you also bought those. Who knows? Or maybe you just prefer everything being digital because this makes it a lot easier. You don't have to dedicate an entire room of your home just for your mangas, and you can bring all your mangas with you everywhere and just start scrolling the page. I like to physically turn a page, but some might just want to scroll because that's what they're used to. But I would love to hear what your preference actually is. Is it like me, or is it different? Whatever you think, comment on your thoughts. As always, until see you next video, just remember to stay awesome. See ya.